Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and let's aim to get 100% completion on this game. Oh, come on, really? Why have they added this in now? I'm never going to be able to get that. I give up. Has this ever happened to you? Well, you, my friend, are experiencing what it's like to give up on trying to complete a game to 100%. We've all been there, so let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 exact moments we gave up on 100% video game completion. Number 8. CUCCO Ranch Craziness, Legend of Zelda, A Link Between Worlds. For the most part, the wondrous Link Between Worlds for the 3DS is an utter joy to play. From its tighter than Scrooge McDuck spending style controls to its gimmick of being able to turn yourself into a painting and slide along the walls and scenery, there's rarely a moment of frustration here. That being said, when it does hit those peak levels of grind, oh baby does it go in hard. On the surface, the CUCCO Ranch minigame, in which you must avoid being touched by both large and small cuckoos, seems like a pleasant and fun distraction. But underneath this beast is a monster that will make you lose all of your clucks. This is because while the rewards for the minigame are listed as rupees and a heart container, there's actually a super secret reward for surviving 999 seconds in the game's endless mode. And let me make this clear, this mode is no joke at all, hammering the player with objects to avoid, so much so that you're going to need to enter a zen-like master state of precognition to stand a bloody chance. Your reward, while not adding to the percentage completion of the game, is a large CUCCO that sits outside the ranch and refills your health whenever you speak to it. It's totally not worth the effort, but for completionists, well, they can't call this game bested unless they've unlocked this beast. Number 7. Figment Fury, Psychonauts 1. While Psychonauts 2 might be setting the world on fire both with its pyrokinesis and its sheer brilliance, much like the game's central gimmick, a few gamers carry with them some emotional baggage in need of some sorting. In a moment that brought memories flooding back like war flashbacks, on one late level in this sequel, I found myself curing my own boldness only to tear my hair out again when it came to trying 3 blasted figments that had blended into the background. Figments, for those of you yet to join the Psychonauts intern program, are 2D neon objects that must be collected if you want to complete an area to 100%. And while the second game went to great lengths to make sure that these were as obvious as possible, the first game, well, it almost sent me into a mental black hole. On some levels, thanks to the color palettes that themselves were already over the top, it was next to impossible to spot each and every one of the figments, and without a guide pointing you to each and every one became a chore that most players burned out on. It's a shame because in actuality, this is probably the only weakness of the original game, but man, did it put completionists in a bad mood. Number 6. Reading the Seriously achievement description, Gears of War. Sometimes the barrier to achieving 100% in a video game is as simple as cracking open the list of trophies bundled with the title and taking a look at the requirements to complete them. And above all else, the absolute boner killer to end all boner killer moment for many Gears of War fans came when reading about the Seriously achievement. This gimmick achievement, which has seen countless iterations across the franchise, might as well have been titled, "You're only gonna get this if you play this game religiously for the next year or so," and basically strong-armed all casual players out of the 100% conversation, which is a true shame, to be honest. There's nothing worse than plugging through a game and seeing achievements pop only for each of them to remind you that you'll likely never complete the game 100% thanks to 1 or 2 absolute bastard requirements. Making matters worse, with the Seriously achievement line, the requirements to unlock later versions got even harder, to the point where those that did pop them weren't actually held aloft by fellow gamers basking in their own bragging rights, they were actively mocked for utterly wasting their time. Number 5. When DLC ruins your streak, nearly every modern game. While we're on the bandwagon of complaining about being defeated before the battle has even begun, quite possibly even worse than an achievement that is going to bar you from that 100% is a video game that actively snatches your prior full completion away from you after you've already got it. Thanks to the current nature of the industry, video games are routinely updated via expansions, live events, and copious amounts of DLC, and as such become titles that evolve across the course of their lives. Now, from a player perspective, this is somewhat of a boon that the games that they love are being supported for longer and usually allows them access to new and interesting features to keep the experience fresh. However, from a completion hunter standpoint, this is a nightmare. As with each expansion, it's quite likely that this means a slew of new achievements will be added to the game for them to tick off. I can only imagine the frustration felt by those looking for perfect scores to see the gap just widen in front of them, especially if it's from a DLC that they have no interest in playing. Therefore, you end up in a weird scenario where some titles effectively paywall 100% completion runs, thus dooming many to never see that glorious platinum pop. Number 4. 100% Monster Souls, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. The Castlevania games are somewhat trolls when it comes to begrudgingly handing out the 100% completion status to players, often using a horrible mix of explore every single aspect of the game world, even the bits that require glitches to access, and obtuse means with which to achieve other bonuses. Plus, there's the fact that nearly every game that tracks completion rates goes above 100% by insane levels. Therefore, on the one hand, achieving 100% technically might be easy, but achieving a true 100% of all the game has to offer? Well, it's a nastier trick than Dracula telling you this castle is actually an illusion. Things are at their painful peak in Aria of Sorrow, which alongside some other monstrously BS requirements, tasks you with finding, killing and then collecting all 100% of monster souls in the game. And this hits a monumental roadblock when it came to the Skyfish, a monster that only appears in 1 or 2 rooms in the entire game, and that you'll only be able to kill if you can freeze time. Luckily, you do get this ability, but the road to unlocking this is so long that many players will give up long before the fish can slap them in the face with its tail. For those that are wondering, you need to obtain the Chronomage Soul, which you can only get by defeating Galamoth, which in turn you can only get by defeating Legion. This chain of challenges is basically like a huge middle finger to casual fans. Number 3. The full set list back to back. Rock Band 2. We all likely remember the first time that we played Rock Band for the first time, right? The sheen of the new instruments, the fighting with your friends over who was going to be playing drums and who should most definitely be kept off vocals, and of course, the sheer thrill that came with literally rocking out, screaming to each other to help them through difficult sections with team-boosting buffs. It's a moment that likely made you foolishly state, "This is so much fun, I bet we could play the entire set list back to back." And that is the moment that Rock Band 2 rubbed its grubby hands together in malevolent glee, because you've just fallen headfirst into its trap. For you see, amongst all of the other brilliant, inventive and fun achievements this game holds, there sits the Bladder of Steel trophy, rewarded only for those that complete the endless set list in one sitting without pausing or failing. It is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most challenging and infuriating achievements ever, as when playing with a group, even a single pause or momentary lapse in judgment can scupper literally hours of work. As such, for most gamers, this is what relegated their band to dads on a weekend jamming variety. Number 2. Unlocking all outfits without AMIIBO. Super Mario Maker. One of the most exceptional things about the Super Mario Maker series is just the sheer level of control that it gives players, but it's also a game for true sadists. Seriously, some of the levels that I've seen people make and then try to run are quite frankly insane. It's the sort of stuff that my own personal hell would look like, and when you look at some courses that only have like a 1% successful clear rate, it almost brings me out in a cold sweat. However, you're gonna need to come to terms with these horror shows if you're to ever unlock all of the alternate costumes that are hidden in the game without the use of AMIIBO, because they're doled out courtesy of a mystery mushroom, an item that you get for clearing 100 Mario mode, itself being a mode in which you only have 100 lives to clear an entire course made of user-generated content. But what makes this an absolute no-go for some players looking to complete their cabinet of clothes was that after clearing normal mode a few times, the game would announce that you need to up the difficulty to unlock more mystery mushrooms. This happens again and again, to the point where eventually you're having to run expert or even super expert in order to get just one. And to be clear, there are over 150 different costumes. Yeah, good luck. And number 1, completing every character's sphere grid. Final Fantasy X. The sphere grid. A brilliant idea on paper, but a completionist's nightmare in practice. This leveling up mechanic centered around positing characters on a monstrous connecting maze, with each level up you acquired allowing you to purchase powers, spells, and attribute buffs. Yet what is pure genius about the sphere grid was that even though each character was placed in an area that would give them skills relevant to their recommended playstyles, gamers could totally ignore these and move them out into other areas of the grid, getting them to learn spells and skills that you normally would never expect. This freedom of choice was a breath of fresh air for the series, but it also presented a bit of a problem, as with each and every node filled, some players began to see the pieces fall into place, that 100% could never truly be claimed until the entire grid was completely filled. As you can imagine, for the average gamer, this was a challenge far too great and arguably far too pointless to chase. Yet for those that committed fully, it was entirely possible. So the next time that somebody tells you that they 100%ed Final Fantasy X, ask them about the sphere grid, and if they begin to sweat, tear up, and shake, then you can accept their claim as being true. And there we go, my friends. Those were 8 exact moments we gave up on 100% video game completion. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go chat to me further on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice. That's Dice with a C, where I do all of my streaming and Warhammer battle reports and stuff like that outside of work. So if you want to check that out, I'd love to see you over there. But before I go, my friend, I just want to say one thing. There is one completionist goal that we should never ever give up on, and that is treating ourselves with respect. Sometimes it can be hard to do, especially within our own minds, but trust me, you are a massive ledge that is worthy of love, happiness, and success. We all are as human beings, and do not let anyone or anything tell you otherwise, alright? Now go out there and smash it. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.